Peace and blessings, guy. Welcome to the Review Bru Show. And it's quite an honor to be here in the presence of a great man, the myth, the legend himself, Keegan Seeram, our first interview for this podcast. I'm your host, ZB, and it's going to be a remarkable journey to chat to interesting individuals within our community, getting to know their brand, who they are as individuals, and also picking their brain with the in terms of how to gain the success that they've also gained. Good afternoon, Keegan. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Wow, what a momentous occasion and an honor to be part of the first podcast. Exciting times, and come from our first meeting in Musgrave a few years ago to where it is now. Really excited to share this experience and journey with everybody, and how you've helped us grow and helped each other grow.
It's been an honor to be a part of the brand itself, and I've seen you've grown with leaps and bounds over the past couple of years. But let's talk about the brand. But let's talk about you, Keegan, the man behind the brand. Talk to us about you as an individual, where you came from, how did Doorman Nutrition start, where did the name Doorman come from, and your qualifications and your background.
Well, it's quite an interesting story. I've always had a good sporting background. So when I was in my early teens, I was quite a good cricketer. So during the off season of the cricket, we used to go to the gym. And when I started the gym, I realized I was actually quite strong, way stronger than everybody else. So I took a liking to it. So then I basically started living in the gym, and I would spend 2 to 3 hours every day. And then on weekends, 2 to 3 hours twice a day. So my strength really grew quite quickly, and I picked up size quite easily. So I fell in love with the iron from about 15 years old. And then obviously you start to want to learn about the different exercises and then nutrition. So back then we never had social media or YouTube or anything like that. So we had to get the magazines. So I would go and get whatever magazines I had, take any little
From
spare.
CNA.
Back in the day, we would act like we're going to buy something and read as much as you can, wait for the security to come and chase you and then leave. But yeah, we'd save up every bit of money, buy the magazines, look at the workouts, copy all of that. And then we'd see the supplements that were advertised, and I would be like, whoa. And I realized that the information that the supplement manufacturers would give you is actually quite valuable, because I would read it, I would implement it, and I would see it work. And there my fascination with supplements started. So, back then we never had much. So to buy international brands was quite expensive, but I tried a few.
But what brands were available at that time?
So at that time you had the American brands was just basically the Joe Wader range, Joe Wader Crash Weight Gainer.
That was
Aminos, yeah. Back then there was only a handful of supplement companies, and that's all we could get. They didn't really taste that well, and the price point was quite high, because obviously it's imported from the United States, and it wasn't easily accessible. There was one shop in KZN or Durban that actually had it. So, being fascinated and seeing the mega bodybuilding stars using these things in the magazines, your fascination started, like, I need to get these things. And I always had an entrepreneur spirit. When I was in primary school, I was selling sweets at school. So it then led me to try and find the raw material or whatever I could get, because I wanted to use it. And that's when it started. So at about 17, I managed to get in 5 bags of 20 kgs raw whey protein concentrate from New Zealand. It was very cheap back then. I remember paying about 65 Rand a kg. And now for whey protein.
Now it's like,
and now whey protein
times.
retails literally 10 times that. And, from there I started using it, and I would take this big bag in the back of my car, 1983 Toyota Corolla, and go down to the gym. And after gym, I would mix it, and then people would say, hey, what is that you're taking? And I say, it's whey protein. It helps you recover and get bigger. And they'd say, give me some. And I'd give it out. Eventually just everyone wanted some. So I was like, guys, I can't give this to you. I need to, you buy a little pack. Got a little scale, packed it into little half kg packs, and that's where it all started. Then obviously being bigger and stronger, I went into security work, and I used to work as a doorman at a famous nightclub out in Durban. And then people from there would always ask me, how do you train? What do you do? What do you eat? And then from there, I would recommend the supplements and obviously the food and the training programs. And it just grew. People would be seeing me every Friday, Saturday night, and sometimes during the week. I became a familiar face, and then I started selling, the supplements at the door of a nightclub, and I was called the Doorman. And then back then we had a little chat sort of tool, or we're going to say cell phone program or app called Mixit, and my name on there was Mr. Doorman, and the name stuck. And so that's where it all started, with the fascination of supplements from the magazines, then getting access to the raw materials. And, from there I started supplying some of the protein bars with it, and then eventually they grew way quicker than I could supply. But I've always had my contacts in bringing in the raw material, and from there it just slowly grew. And then eventually, it just got too busy where I couldn't really go and drop off stuff for people at their house. And then it's like, you need to get a store.
Yeah.
And then in 2014, we opened up a little store on the bluff, literally across the road from the gym that I trained at, because we used to literally stand in the car park every night and people would come and buy their proteins from me, and I'd be like, you need to get a shop because we can't come at 8 o'clock at night. We want to come during the day.
So you're selling outside of your boot?
Out the boot of my car. So that's it. And quite fascinating how it grew because, I never even advertised and people would come from all over Durban. I mean, I used to live in the shop, so I used to close the shop at 11 o'clock because I understood that the gyms close at 9 o'clock and people want to get their stuff and they would come
socialize a bit.
And yeah, we had it outside and we had the magazines, we had a little TV and, we were open literally 17 hours a day at the store. And from there, it just grew. And now we're sitting on about 6 stores and a gym and our production factory.
So come a long way in just over 11 years, eh?
Yeah, in 11 years it is. Look, we put the time and pressure and the effort in because we love what we do. So I think the story behind it is it's a lot of passion. There's a lot of things that happen in the industry that we can do, but we don't do it because it's not something we just do purely to make money. Money hasn't been the issue. It's just creating a legacy. Because I was that 16-year-old kid who went into a shop trying to buy quality supplements and I was sold a dud. And the only way to solve that problem is to actually provide a solution. And that's why I started the brand. It really is, I worked really long hours to save up my pocket money. And I'll never forget the day I bought a supplement and they told me what it's supposed to be and it wasn't that. And the feeling knowing that I spent hours to earn that money to buy something that wasn't actually on the label, it still stays inside my head to the point where I know when a 16-year-old walks into my store, I would never want him to go through that feeling. And there's a personal touch to behind every product we manufacture.
Absolutely. And I think any brand for that matter has a sort of unique selling point. So what's yours?
So ours is literally, we make what we would use. So you'll see our product range is quite bespoke. It's quite small. My whey protein, for example, that is the flagship product. We've just got one whey protein and there's no other brand that has that. They all have anabolic whey or super whey and this way because they're mixing with soya. And it's so sad that the South African market is exposed to this because you'll never see that in international markets. You cannot do that in an international.
So they're watering it down.
They're watering it down here and they'll have a play on the name. They'll call whey plus or complete whey or anabolic whey. But those products can't make it in Europe or America because if there's no whey, if you've got soya in your product, you can't call it whey. It's only in South Africa your mass-produced brands have literally 80% soya and pea protein and rice protein and 5% whey, but then they call the product whey. But
so false advertising.
It's an adulteration and playing on the wording. And I mean, half our country is illiterate, so they play on that. It's a bit of a shame in my eyes, but that's now coming from a purist and someone's really passionate about the industry. And I always say to my customers, I could make those products. I have every means to do that, but I'll never do that because it's just not right.
But the quality of protein that you have, I think you focus more on the concentrate aspect. So what's the differences between the different types of whey? I know you have hydrolysate, you have concentrate, you have isolate.
And isolate.
You have all the different,
So it's basically the protein content and the carbohydrate content. So isolate is pretty much 80% protein with 6 to 7% fat, 6 to 7% carbohydrates. Isolate, isolate is 90% protein with 3 to 4% carbs and 3 to 4% fat. If fat at all. And hydrolysate is pretty much the same, just a higher protein concentrate. But the more processing it goes, the faster it goes through your system, and then sometimes you don't even absorb it. Your best value for money is actually concentrate. And just to explain to the audience there, you have, say 20 years ago, you had whey concentrate. It's the standard that we had. But now companies have to I would say is show that you got something better. So they just keep over processing and then they've got isolate and then they've got hydrolysate. So everybody thinks that the next thing is better, but it's not necessary. It's just to get the pure benefit of using a whey isolate, you have to use it by itself. As soon as it's diluted with anything, it's just lost its effect. For example, you all know the bottled water Evian, right? It's expensive from Switzerland. Would you take that and mix it with Durban tap water?
Obviously not.
Exactly. And I see, so it's the same concept of taking a pure whey isolate and putting it in peanut butter. And I see every coach and every specialist recommending this. And I'm like, if you guys think that works, you carry on. But we're the specialists in the industry. We know I do all the reading on the literature. The concentrate's your best value for money, and it works.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, the actual brand itself, Doorman, has come a long way over the past 10 years. Now, you've also recently moved into your own factory warehouse in the past couple of years. So talk to us about how the process of running a supplement company from where you were 10 years ago to where you are now, with all the different sort of the range that you have with the different sort of supplements.
So our business model is quite bespoke in that we're the only company that manufactures our own product and retails it through our own stores. Every other company will have their product manufactured by a third party, taken to a wholesaler and then to a distributor. So that model allows, you have to allow for 3 people then to make a profit for them to want to sell your product. And it's not just sports nutrition. If you look at any other thing from electronic goods to paint, any industry, when somebody makes it for a retailer to sell it, there's always going to be a cut. Makeup's another one. Because the retailer, what's the incentive for the retailer to keep the product? You know, if I take my product to a retailer, any retailer is going to say, well,
what's my percentage?
What's my percentage? The first thing is, so I think the audience needs to understand the reason retailers keep a product purely is because they're making bigger margins. So the only way for us to maintain our business model is to manufacture our own and keep it through our stores. That way, I don't cut you down and skimp you on the quality of the product or the size of the package. So a lot of tricks that companies do, instead of a 1 kg, they'll give you a 9 or 8 gram, which is 2 pounds, which already is 10% less, right? But why do they have to do that? Because the retailer needs to make money. Then they'll give you, instead of a 78% protein, they'll give you a 68% protein. So that's another 10% less. So they have to do that because the other 10% is for the warehouse person and then the salesman. And then off that 68%, they'll put in a blend of protein. And that's not the highest quality protein, so you're not really absorbing it. Why? Because there's another person that needs to make his cut. And you go into any mass retail sort of store and you'll see exactly what I'm talking. They'll give you a 9 or 8 gram tub. It's 68% protein, and the price is literally 60 to 70% more than ours. But that's because I always call them amateurs, and their business model is just run of the mill. They all copy the same business model. They rush into it, where ours has taken 10 years to get to where we are. But our business model is solid. You cannot own it in its entirety if you haven't taken the time we've taken.
Absolutely. And I think I'm sure a lot of trial and error went into the building of the brand, because anybody can produce a product. It's just how you market it as well. So with regards to marketing your brand, would you say you do a lot of marketing, or do you say there's a lot of word of mouth with the brand?
A lot of it is word of mouth. You know, I'm a purist. I'm a former competitive bodybuilder, and like I say, the stuff that we make is really because there's a gap in the market. So the products that we make is something that we would use. When it comes to the advertising, we use your normal platforms. We're always sponsoring shows, but the best is actually the word of mouth. This guy's used it and another guy used it. We've got a team of athletes now as well, literally the best in the country, in the continent. We've had Muzi Maruleke compete at the Mr Olympia and finish 7th. It's been done by no other South African, you know. So when it comes to the advertising, your quality speaks for itself. Ours does. But we're slowly getting out there in terms of sponsoring races, bodybuilding shows, and big events. So we're out there.
Yeah. So you just mentioned now you've sponsored an athlete called Muzi. He's made it into the Mr Olympia. So talk to us about how significant the Mr Olympia stage is, and also for a South African to play 7th. I think he's the 3rd South African and the first a black bodybuilder to walk on that stage.
So the Mr Olympia is the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. It's the World Cup of bodybuilding. It's where Arnold Schwarzenegger became famous. He won that title 6 times, I think it was. You know, purely qualifying for that event is a milestone. Yeah. It's literally in the Muzi's the 212 pound division, so it's under 95 kgs. There were only 16 athletes that qualified. And there's over 180 countries that have the ability to qualify. So it's really competitive. When you see an event of that magnitude, you begin to realize that what an achievement it is just to get there. So yes, Muzi was the first South African and black South African to qualify, proudly representing Doorman and South Africa on that stage. he finished 7th, which is just out of the prize giving. And generally, the guys that finish 7th, if you look at the trend, that's his first show, it's fine. The next one, you usually move up 2 or 3 spots and then 2 or 3 spots. So we understand that everything takes time. We in it for the long haul. We will make sure he gets the best he can, and we want the win in a few years. We understand it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, everybody on that stage has paid their dues, and when I say pay their dues, you've been 3 to 5 years at least before you can really be recognized.
So what does his representation on that stage mean to you?
For me, it's literally a childhood dream. From picking up the magazines 30 years ago and seeing the pictures of these bodybuilders at Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas, seeing the champions stand on that stage and be presented by Joe Wider and his brother Ben Wider it's the ultimate for any bodybuilder to experience and to achieve. I would love to have been there competing. I understand I'm not that good, and it shows you how good Muzi is, but to be there and actually carry the hopes of a nation and every young bodybuilder, to show them that South Africa can actually put an athlete of that caliber on stage, for me now gives me a new meaning to life. I've just got off the phone with Muzi on Friday, and we said, we're in it for the long haul. We will make sure you bring that back. And I don't think any other company understands this. I look at my competition and I just see these guys are just retail companies. Yeah. And I think the passion that we have, my team, you're never going to match that. I don't have kids. I really take this seriousness to another level, from the brand to the quality to the involvement in the sport. It's something no one can match. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Now, that's such an honor to hear that story, because, it's sort of inspiring for a lot of people actually watching right now. But let's talk about the actual products under the brand. So here we have sort of the famous Jono stack, which we've heard so much about. Now, at the beginning of the year, I was weighing about 88 kgs. Mm-hmm. This is my go-to stack to lose weight. And I lost about 5 kgs in the past 2 months, which is a huge wonder. So then talk us through each of these products. My favorite is the Thermidor. And obviously you get your pre-workouts. So just talk to us about each of the products.
So generally you went on a fat loss
yes.
stack. So let's try and break it down. So generally to lose fat, you need to burn a bit more calories than you consume, and also have the correct anabolic environment for you to maintain / build muscle. And how do you do that? So you need to obviously eat a little bit less and clean up your diet without sacrificing your protein content, because protein holds and builds muscle. So adding a whey protein to your breakfast and straight after your training program is the 2 parts of the day when your body actually cries for nutrients. Breakfast, because you've fasted for 6 to 7 hours and you haven't eaten, so you want to put quality protein. Also, eating protein at breakfast reduces the cravings later in the day. So you're not going to go around wanting to eat something sweet. So focus on protein, be it eggs, steak, fish, which people don't really eat for breakfast, and then adding a scoop of whey protein will give you 24 grams of lean protein, which will help you build muscle, maintain muscle, and then give you the hard vascular look like you have on your biceps there. Because you always notice that they say long distance runners, they carb up before a race. Bodybuilders, we eat more protein, so our nitrogen retention is higher, so you get that hard muscular look. So you can only achieve that by eating a lot of protein. Whey protein is the perfect supplement to add good quality protein into your diet. But then you usually train twice a day if you're trying to burn fat and build muscle. So you take if you're doing cardio in the morning, the Thermidor will give you a lot of energy. So it's equivalent to about 2 or 3 cups of coffee. There's some yohimbine in there, which is a bark extract that increases your metabolism. So the key here, guys, is to take that on an empty stomach. So when your stomach's empty or your glycogen levels are low, you burn up more fat. So let's just put it in common sense. It's like you haven't eaten for 7 hours and you take a serving of Thermidor. It increases your body temperature. And remember, there's no real food in your system, so your body's going to start using fatty acids for energy. So you take a serving of your Thermidor and you go and run for half an hour. You're going to be burning up more calories. And a higher percentage of those calories will be from fat. And every day, if you're doing half an hour on the cardio on a cardio equipment, and then you're cleaning up your diet by reducing your fat intake by 150 to 200 calories, you're creating a nice deficit where your body's going to draw from its fat. Then the carnitine, the liquid L-carnitine is a very nice addition to add to the thermidor. So that basically stimulates or gets more fatty acids into the mitochondria of the cell to be burned up for energy. It also helps with sort of the mental acuity and get rid of brain fog. A lot of people that take that actually feel like really alert and their brain sort of works better, if I could say that. But that's a stimulant-free product, very good to use later in the evening. Some of the guys who do their cardio after 6 o'clock, you don't want to take too much of a stimulant at 6 o'clock in the evening because it's to stay in your system for 4 hours. So the Carnidor, or the liquid carnitine, is very popular to take.
And it's got a high dose of L-carnitine per serving, yeah.
Per serving, yeah. So you got 2,000 milligrams. So another trick that the companies use is, they'll put in their fat burner, they'll put 1 milligram of L-carnitine, and then they say their product contains L-carnitine. It's like
1 gram, you mean?
1 milligram, literally.
1 milligram.
This is the tricks that these guys, they'll say, hey, our product contains L-carnitine. So it's like having a Lamborghini, and one screw in your Lamborghini is from a VW, and you say that you're. You got a VW and you got one screw that's from a Lamborghini and you call your car Lamborghini. Okay, yeah. So that's what they do. So we don't do that. So that's our products are purest. There's 2,000 milligrams in there. That's the clinically studied dose. So all our products have high doses of the effective ingredients. And that's why, we're growing in popularity. And like I say, it's from our factory into our stores. No middleman. You can't find us on any platform where you can order online because you literally sell yourself to the devil if you're going to be on those platforms. You have to give them their cut to water down your product. So our products, clinically dosed, fully dosed, and available exclusively at our stores and our online site. Then the CLA, that you can add to each, it's a liquid gel cap. You take that, it's basically a fatty acid that helps stimulate your body produce more fat-burning enzymes. You have 1 gel cap with each solid meal. And that is very popular amongst ladies, and those are not training too hard because it helps stimulate lipolysis or the usage of fat during the day. So a very nice stimulant-free product to use, not necessary to be really exercising intensely when you're taking that. You just neaten up your diet a bit and you can take your CLAs. This is one of my favorite, the fish oil caps. So, with the fish farming and the way they sort of breed fish these days, a lot of the fish don't actually have the proper nutrients that they're supposed to have. So, supplementing with fish oil definitely helps. It reduces your risk of cancers, there's all your old aging diseases, but that definitely helps with the same with your brain acuity and help you focus and concentrate. And also with healthy fats, it helps your body release more fat burning enzymes. So the CLA and the essential fatty acids used together, especially when you're in your keto diet, is another secret to help you burn up more fat. When you drop your carbs completely and you're only eating fats and proteins, this is your secret trick, your CLA and your EFAs to burn body fat. Then you got your branch chain amino acids. So that's basically the key amino acids that involved in building muscle. So when you're on a calorie restricted diet, like Zahid was trying to burn up body fat, you also have the danger of burning up muscle. And the way to prevent that is just have the key amino acids, which are the branch chain amino acids, there's 3 of them, and sip on that while you train. So you can maintain your muscle mass, and like you say, get that hard, vascular, muscular look while you're training, and also losing body fat at the same time. And then personally, my favorite, the last one, is the pre-workout. So this is a stimulant-free pre-workout, means there's no caffeine, totally safe for training at night, so it won't affect your sleep, especially Ramadan after the guys break fast. It's nice, it gives you a pump. So what a pre-workout does, it increases blood flow to the muscle. So you got your little veins carrying all the blood to your muscles. It's like a hose pipe carrying water, and that amino acid mix in there opens up the blood vessels, so you get a better blood flow. And it can actually reduce, your blood pressure, but because the effect of it actually opens up your blood vessels. So very good to increase the pump and then help you focus as well.
Mm-hmm. So there you go. There's a sort of nice, concise way of getting to know Keegan, the brand, the brains behind the brand. But where do you see it? Just lastly, where do you see the company in the next 5 years?
So we'll grow it to firstly get into the neighboring countries, which we already are, and with Muzi hopefully taking top honors in international shows, slowly start trading in the Middle East. We've got our fingers in there as we speak, and then into Europe. But I think Middle East and Africa for me is definitely where we want to take it. People can associate with the brand. So once we get in there, everything else will figure itself out. So definitely growing to getting more stores in other provinces, growing our online following as well, and then increase the range of products, and then grow the range into other sort of wellness range as well.
Awesome stuff. Quick one, rapid fire questions. We're going to ask Keegan some questions on the spot. Let's see how sharp he can answer this. So very quickly, your favorite movie?
I don't watch much movies. I like Get Rich or Die Trying from 50 Cent. That's the last one I watched.
Favorite form of protein?
I like steak.
Like steak?
Steak, yeah.
All right. Favorite fast food, go-to?
Sushi. I could call that, yeah. I don't really eat anything fried.
Favorite vegetable?
Would be cabbage.
Favorite fruit?
Lychee.
Favorite juice? Fruit juice.
I would say would be lychee juice as well.
Okay, just playing it safe.
I'm a Durbanite. We like our lychees, yeah.
And if you had to travel anywhere for a holiday, which will be your favorite destination to visit that you haven't been before?
Anywhere in Europe, I just want to see the mountains and the snow. So Switzerland.
There we go.
Switzerland, yeah.
And open a Swiss account.
Keegan,
thank you so much for joining us in the Review Bru Show.
Thanks, Dave.
Looking forward to interviewing you again in the near future about the building of the brand. But just very quickly for our viewers, if they want to find you online and find your stores, where do they go and how do they find you?
So online, we're at www.doormannutrition.co.za. Our 6 stores are in KZN. It's 378 Tara Road on the Bluff, 65 Overport Drive in Overport. That's just across the road from the Atrium Shopping Centre. 42 Old Main Road up in Hillcrest. 12 Village Road in Kloof. And Belito, it's Unit 4, Ashley Park in Belito. And then 45 Senate Drive in Umhlanga.
100%. Until next time, guys, look after yourself as well as one another. Shot.